Welcome on in, lacrosse fans, sports bettors alike, to Bet On Lacrosse. Excited to be here with you. I'm Dan Alexander. It's a three-man crew today.
We got the holy triumvirate. We're like think of your favorite trios in music. We're like the Rush of betting on lacrosse right now. We're like the Green Day of betting on lacrosse right now. I'm your host, Dan Alexander. I got my man Justin Byers, a business writer with Front Office Sports. And we got Action Jackson, Hutton Jackson, the host of Pro Lacrosse Talk and a producer with Action Network. Let's welcome in the guys because we have plenty to get into here. We have a NLL playoff game as the Bandits await who they will be playing in the finals. We're a little less than a week away from the PLL season. And, oh yeah, we got a little something called the Natty this weekend. I know my guy Justin Byers is pumped up about it. JB, how you doing, my man?
Man, I can't complain one bit. It's kind of sad. The college lacrosse season is kind of dwindling down on us. But we got a good weekend ahead, and hopefully we'll have some good picks, and we'll be following on a broken Boulevard of Dreams for a Green Day reference.
Well done. Well done, indeed. I'm trying to is Weezer a trio? I think Weezer is a trio. Destiny's Child. I mean, we don't only have to go like punk trios, like Blink-182 route. We got some other options there. Hutton, how are you doing, my man? I know you're pumped up for this week. Did we steal all the power trios that are out there, other than our power trio, obviously?
I think you hit a lot of them. And the Boulevard of Broken Dreams reference by JB was a good one. I guess that makes me the American idiot. But I'm happy to be here and excited to talk some lacrosse.
Yeah, I'm with you. Now you guys stole two good references right out of the gate as well. So we're rolling here on Bet On Lacrosse. With so much to get into, we're probably just going to get right into it. Want to remind people all along the way, especially since it's just us three, you want to hop in, you want to give our thoughts or give your thoughts on, the slate, any future markets. Had a great listener conversation last week with a guy named Brandon. Unfortunately, his UVA future, just like our guy Brian Andrews, is dead in the water. That's what happens when you go toe-to-toe with the Maryland Terrapins. But if you want to hop in along the way, give us some of your thoughts, feel free. Hit that request button. We'll get you in as quickly as we can. We're going to end, as we always do, talking a little NLL. I mentioned that the Bandits await the winner of San Diego and Colorado. We'll break down that game, see what Hutton's thoughts are on that one. Brian Andrews passing in the NLL, excuse me. I think that's apropos. I basically ended up passing the entire season because it was too tough to try and feel confident. And looking at the NLL betting report, I see why. It's just been like flipping coins trying to pick games in that league. But I think, part of the bigger story, guys, before we start getting into some of these NCAA games, is now we know for sure the Chaos are going to be without 10 of their biggest players to start the year. And we talked about, hey, get in on the Whip Snakes when you can. They opened up actually as underdogs. If you were a savvy enough bettor, you were able to get 1.5 goals. I think that line might end up closing closer to 2. There continues to be money coming in on Whips. They're now minus 210 on the money line. So, I think that is a major story there. But Hutton, I want to throw it your way, obviously maybe for any of that reaction, but the bigger thing is, you would feel like when there's 10 players going to be out in PLL the week one, that would probably be the biggest story, right? Well, not in the lacrosse world, because I think we all were saying, what the hell is going on with the Chrome right now? The Stotts saga. I don't know if you have anything more. I've really been tuned into what you've been dropping on Twitter. It's really just been a giant question mark around, is he going to play? Is he going to play? He was going to be playing in a different league, and he was committed for the whole entire year. And then, oh, wait, no, Sudan then says, no, he's going to be around with us for camp. So quite the saga, Hutton. I know our listeners want to know what's the latest on that, my man.
Yeah, so it sounds like he's going to play. I was probably the first person to kind of cry wolf by accident. I saw that the Six Nations Chiefs, who's the team that he just played a game for this past weekend, announced that he was going to play for them during the season. The article made it pretty certain that he's playing along with Brendan Bomberry throughout the entire season. At least that's what it implied. They said they had a commitment from him. And we've known that players are unable to play in other leagues while in season. That's a PLL contract stipulation. So led us to believe that Randy Stotts was not going to be playing in the PLL this year. Now, I wasn't able to confirm that with him directly, but then Lacrosse Playground put out a report that they had confirmed with him that he was playing for the Chrome. I spoke to Coach Sudan the next day, and he's expecting them to see him day one at training camp on Saturday. So all signs show that he is going to play for the Chrome this year. I don't know if it just got lost in translation, the fact that he was maybe just playing a game with the Chiefs, kind of get some reps under him. He's been healthy. Recently, he actually was almost ready to go with Panther City, decided to rest him still just because they didn't have a chance to make the playoffs, so there's no worth. It wasn't worth risking injury for him. But he's 100% healthy and ready to go. It looks like the Chrome are going to have him. So I think everyone can expect to see a top-tier talent in this league. If you followed him during the MLL with the Blaze, he was part of that prolific offense that set records in 2019. Had one of the sickest highlight assists in 2020 with the Cannons, where he basically had a defender on his back and threw a behind-the-back pass. So he's going to be a lot of fun to watch, and it looks like they're going to have him for the season. So that's the latest on the saga. I don't know how it really plays out with his contract stipulation. I'm just excited to be wrong and excited that we get to see him on TV this summer.
Yeah, right there with you, man. I think the more players that we're able to have under one roof, the better it's going to be for the sport, just because, that's why I personally love professional sports. We're going to get into NCAA, but I always, when the pro league playoffs roll around, no matter what the sport is, I'm so tuned in because I love seeing the best athletes in the world competing on the same field. So I think that's what's been a huge draw for the Premier Lacrosse League. I also think, just looking at some of these lines here, Chrome still getting that 2.5 against Archers. It's week 1. And you're going to have a player like Stotts on the field. And I understand they got a lot of new pieces coming in, but, article that you have coming is going to really break down, some of these players that are going to be back, like having Giles Harris. Like the Chrome really have a chance to be one of those sleeper teams because a lot of the woes for them last year just had a lot to do with injury and a lot to do with, lack of chemistry because constant rotating door and, with some players leaving as well, there's going to be a major injection of youth. And also the major question marks around the team sometimes can work for a benefit, can kind of work to galvanize teams. So, I'm looking forward to seeing that article, seeing any of your thoughts. But before we move on, get to NCAA, JB, any thoughts as we trudge towards the PLL season? Because, we gave out some actionable info, and a lot of those lines have already moved in the directions that we've been looking towards. So just kind of an update before we roll on into the NCAA championships we have this weekend.
No, one thing I'm really kind of happy to see heading into this season, this PLL season, is the Whipsnakes. They're not the premier team in this league, which is kind of nice to see. We've seen the teams beat each other up throughout the season, but when it comes to tournament play and winning a championship, the Whipsnakes are the only team that really stands out outside of what really happened last year. But I think this year it's really anybody's shot. With you saying what the Chrome could possibly do, they could make a run. So you just really don't know going into the season, which I'm really excited for.
I said it back in our preview show. I'll say it again, and I'm going to say it all year long. And, I think we have a new champion this year. I don't think it's going to be Whipsnakes. I don't think it's going to be Chaos. I think there will be a new champion, which makes the futures market super interesting when we trudge towards PLL. Last thing on PLL, a little happy moment for me, some news to share that I'm going to have a show coming. It'll be distributed via the PLL Bets account. It'll be, blasted out from the Premier Lacrosse League account as well. I will be hosting a new show. It's called Over and Back. It's going to be dropping, and we're going to have a different guest each and every week. Our first guest is going to be Evan Malloy hopping on. There could be some fireworks dropped. You never know. Also could be some heavy editing needed. We will find out, but Evan Malloy going to be hopping on the show with me Over and Back. So keep your eyes peeled. Make sure you follow PLL Bets. Make sure you continue to follow us here at Bet On Lacrosse. And, drop JB a follow, drop Hutton a follow. We appreciate it. And if you like what we're doing, just tell people about us. That is what it is all about. So, guys, let's get into it here. NCAA action this weekend. Couldn't be more excited about it. Although I'll be honest, the fear of when the bracket rolled out, and everyone was just like, dear God, we have no Notre Dame. We have really no ACC foes. Maryland could just list their way through the tournament, wade their way through the tournament. And that's what's happening, guys. You're now looking at a futures market that is seeing Maryland as a minus 650 favorite to win. They're basically just saying, yeah, they've already won it. So we're all kind of, hoping for an upset just because, it would be fun to see when you have 6.5-point favorites potentially dropping down like they did. How about the money line in this Maryland and Princeton game? A laughable minus 1150 for the Terrapins. I mean, I talked to you guys about the FU lines and basically where an odds maker just puts it up and says, if you want to bet it, fuck you, man. You can do it. If you really want to, do it. If you want to lay 1150, be my guest to do it. You bet $10, you can get a solid 86 cents back, guys. Really nice return on the investment there if you want to back Maryland. The take back on Princeton, though, I think almost just as laughable at plus 650. When you have such a heavy money line favorite, I'd maybe like to see a little bit longer of odds on Princeton. Not saying that I would place on it, but what are you going to do there? So 6.5-point favorites, and it's juiced minus 130. Total in this one a little bit more interesting. I know JB has a best bet coming in this game. So Hutton, I'll throw it your way first for just 6.5 in the semifinals, dude. Is this Maryland team the best college lacrosse team that we've ever seen?
I don't want to dub them the best we've ever seen just yet, but in this era, definitely. I mean, I put them up with, 1990 Syracuse, 06 UVA. Like, they're in contention for the top spot. They're in that discussion for one of the best teams of all time. And the market, I mean, these lines makers have been setting the odds, I think, pretty ironclad. It's annoying because they are fuck you lines. Like, okay, well, how are we supposed to play this? But Maryland has been that good this year. So it's been really tough as bettors. I know some guys had gotten in on Maryland futures back when they were, plus 250. And I always thought there was going to be that moment where, maybe they'd falter a little bit and you could get them at a better price. And that moment never came. And here you're looking at minus 650 to bet them. And it's just, it's crazy. Yeah, I definitely think they're one of the best teams we've seen in a long time. I do think that, maybe I would lean the under just because Maryland's been, putting up a lot of points. And I feel like this Princeton defense could, give them a little bit more trouble than what they've seen. But it's just too risky for me to bet because we've seen how many points they can put up. And I think Princeton, I think they have a decent shot in this game, despite, being such heavy underdogs. So what worries me is that you do see Maryland put up a lot of points and Princeton's able to get some late goals or whatever just to kind of make it interesting. And that goes over. But my gut feels like it's going to lean towards the under. I just think with 27.5, it's a little high. And I feel like, Maryland's kind of due for maybe a little bit of offensive regression, but I still think they win this game, and I ultimately think they win the championship.
And we've also seen with lacrosse, whenever you see rain in the forecast, it doesn't always mean, bet the under. You know what I mean? You see that in football as well. It's really wind that will affect totals, that'll affect games and things like that. It is worth mentioning, though, on Saturday, there is some weather in the forecast. I was just checking it out. I always like to do that, always build it in to when I'm trying to handicap games, either, good, bad, or indifferent. I thought last weekend we were going to see a lot of unders just because of the heat, and we saw exactly that. If you were betting live unders, you were really making some good coin. You wait for some early goals, hit some of these. And we've also seen more live lines, guys. So again, there might not be something actionable for you right now in this Maryland game. I would be very surprised if we didn't see a live line in this. You may have gotten suckered in with that live line of UVA. Oh my goodness, UVA scores the first goal. They're going to be fighting. And then life happened. So Hutton, you have anything more to add to that end?
Yeah, I think playing this live is where you can probably find the most value. I think right now it's properly priced with Maryland being minus 6.5. But we've seen them, go down or not score the first goal or whatever. We saw it against UVA last week. So I think, just monitor that live line because right now, like I said, I feel like Maryland's championship, it's inevitable. So if I'm you and I see, the spread dip to maybe -5.5, -4.5 even, I would jump on that. So I think you might be able to get some more value if you're feeling like, maybe -6.5 feels a little bit right. It's a little too many goals to lay. I think, maybe Princeton comes out hot, puts up a few goals on them. I would hit Maryland on the live spread just because I do think Maryland's going to win this game. And, Princeton might throw something at them they're not used to, but they are such a good team that they'll ultimately come back and win this game, even if they do go down a couple goals. So, yeah, play those live odds a little bit, see if you can get anything. I think the bookmakers are smart, so it might take, a 3 or 4 goal lead for us to see any movement, but that's something I would be looking out for on Saturday.
It's also worth mentioning, guys, too, the most ideal thing would be Princeton comes out red hot and is leading at halftime. Because I will tell you what, if Princeton has a lead at halftime, I am backing up the Brinks truck to place on Maryland in the second half. Like that is what I am absolutely praying for, is Princeton comes out red hot and maybe even has, like a 1-goal lead. You're probably not going to see too much in the movement of the spread. They've been really stingy. I don't know if they have somebody watching it live, if they do it like an algorithm, like a lot of this live betting is. But if you, just like Hutton said, if you're ever getting a lower price on Maryland, even if it's just a goal or two, I think that could be a really, really solid bet. I know that Hutton, we both have a best bet coming up in this Rutgers and Cornell game. So I'm going to set it up and give JB the floor to kind of break down the way that he's looking at that before we get into our NCAA best bets for this weekend. Roll into some NLL talk as well. If you want to be a part of the space, just hit that request button. We'll get you on in here. Rutgers, the 1.5 goal favorites, -130 if you want to lay that with them. Cornell, the underdog on the money line as well. Rutgers -170. Your take back on Cornell for a $10 better would be $14. They're +140. Total in this one, I don't know, for what Rutgers has been doing offensively, 24.5. Seems a little low. It's juiced to the over, -120. You can back the under at -110, but I think we got a hell of a lacrosse game between these two teams. I don't know if I could make a case either way on this spread. I think I lean Rutgers in this one, but JB, since your best bet's coming from the other game, how are you attacking this one? Is it going to be a pass, or you think you're going to sprinkle on something come game time?
It's the Final Four, so I got to sprinkle something. And personally, I might wait to see if there's any line movement, closer to the weekend. But personally, what I'm leaning here is Cornell. They're a team that's just continually surprised me throughout the season, and they've been able to win in a variety of ways. I think Connor Busick's got a really good thing going there, and they've got a really solid team from top to bottom with Erlen in the cage and what they're doing with their midfield and their attack, scoring goals almost at will. They're a scary team to face in this position, and we know Rutgers, they have the NASCAR offense. They've got one of the best goalies in Colin Kurse, who's arguably been the player of the tournament so far. If he doesn't have a great day, then Cornell could really run away with this one. So I'm excited to kind of see what Cornell has and if Rutgers can live up to the hype.
And that's always the question heading into Rutgers games. It's, how is Kurse going to do? All playoffs long, though, he has just like you said, been insanely solid. And when we get to my best bet, I have some numbers on just him lifetime in the tournament. In the 4 games that he's played, he raises his level come tourney time. And Rutgers has really needed it because there's been some good looks on cage. So get into the best bets here. I forgot to mention this too when we were talking about the Princeton-Maryland game. And then we'll get into our best bets. Sorry to kind of go back and forth here, but it was something that I wanted to get in there. When I was trying to handicap and find a side, find a play in the Maryland and Princeton game, I went back to when they played the first time because Princeton actually covered this number. Princeton only lost by 5 goals the first time that Maryland and Princeton faced off against each other this year. And then I dove into the numbers, guys, and I don't have them in front of me right now. Sorry, I should have been a little bit better prepared. But it was something, the shot disparity. Maryland, I believe, had 50 shots to Princeton's 23. So, they covered this number. Let's just go back and look at that. They already covered it. And now it's playoff time. they were lucky to be within 5 goals of Maryland, and Maryland's dropping those shots that maybe they didn't drop earlier in the year that kept some of those games a little bit closer. So, I just have concerns for Princeton being able to score in their matchup against Maryland. I think, the buzz of playoff time, sure. I feel like when you try and make a case for Princeton getting the 6.5, you're almost trying to do it to talk yourself into this could be a game. But all the stats, everything is telling us that Maryland should roll. Sometimes, that's the best spot to back the underdog. I just don't have the stomach to do it. So your best bet comes in this one, JB. Justin Byers, a business writer with Front Office Sports. So I'm going to throw it your way, my man. What are you backing? Are you doing it? Are you having the gastrointestinal fortitude to back Princeton, or what are you playing in this game?
The fact that Maryland put up 50 shots, against Princeton that first matchup almost made my stomach turn as a former goalie. The fact that they saw that many shots is utterly ridiculous. But yeah, like you guys were kind of speaking on earlier, like this would be a great game if there were more market opportunities with betting lacrosse. If there were alternate lines, or if there were first half, second half betting, this would be a great spot to kind of get in between there, especially with that first half with Princeton. If you're able to get like a plus 3.5 number there, that'd be great. But with the way the history's kind of gone with Maryland so far, we know they could put up a ton of points. But this under 27.5 is kind of intriguing only because there's a potential for Maryland to play 2 games in 3 days. Which means if they get a little bit of a head, they could be, more prone to resting the starters and getting some of those second and third string guys out there. If Maryland goes up early, you could see a second string goalie come in at the fourth quarter. So you just don't know. And I think that's going to be kind of a tone I'm going to go with it. Just because we've seen Maryland be so dominant, I wouldn't be surprised if they kind of slow things down and kind of get out there and get in and get out early just so they can move on to Monday and hopefully win another championship. And I also kind of want to add that Princeton, they've got a great offense, so they've got great talent, but can they put up even 10 goals against this Maryland defense where, Maryland's not necessarily known for their defensive prowess in the past. Like, of course, they've had great defensemen and great long poles, but this Maryland defense is just on a different level right now, and they're kind of clicking on all cylinders, and they play collectively really well, which is encouraging to see as someone who takes pride in defense. And they're giving their goalie like great opportunities to see the shots that he wants to see. And with that being said, I don't know if Princeton can even get to 12 goals, so that gives me a little bit even more of a cushion on this under.
I tend to agree with you. I think it's going to be interesting just how this game plays out because, like you said, I think you have a good point there. Maryland's never been one to kind of take the pedal off the metal, but that's not really because they do rest their starters. It's just that their second stringers are that good. So I think Princeton's a caliber team where if they do put in their second stringers, we're not going to see as many goals as we do with other teams. When like Vermont, when Maryland really, rested some of their guys later in the game, but those guys were able to put up points too. So, I tend to agree with you on that one for sure. It's definitely going to be interesting. I'm personally staying away, but I like the play to go with the under there.
Yeah, it can be scary because we've seen Maryland in the past get to championship weekend and kind of not necessarily fold, but things not go the way that they probably plan to. So with a team like Princeton, and I know this Maryland team it's definitely up there in my opinion with that 06 Virginia team, which is personally, in my opinion, the best team in college lacrosse, even though, I was born, prior to the 90s and 80s. So I don't know, but we'll see. I think this Maryland team they're good, but they just really got to put it away. Like they can't give Princeton any type of hope this weekend. And if they do, they could be in some trouble.
I have a play coming up in the Rutgers game where we're kind of at odds. Maybe Brian Andrews, our other guy, he said, I don't want to come on because I'm going to be going head-to-head with Hutton. So, Hutton, I'm going to give you the floor. Rutgers, you're looking at the side in this one. Best bet time for Hutton Jackson, host of Pro Lacrosse Talk and a producer over with the Action Network. What do you got for the folks, Hutton?
I'm taking Rutgers -1.5 here. I think they're a far better team than Cornell. I think Cornell can give them a good game, but I would have set this more at -2.5, -3.5. So I like Rutgers only having to lay 2 goals. This defense is a tough defense. I think this defense is just as good, if not better, than the Delaware defense that Cornell ran into last week. And of course, Cornell did beat that Delaware team, but overall, I thought it was a much closer game than I expected. I know me and JB were both happy because my Cornell -1.5 hit and his Delaware +2.5 hit. But overall, I haven't been super impressed with Cornell the past 2 weeks, enough to believe that they're going to cover against Rutgers. So I'm taking Rutgers here. Right now, they're 12th ranked defense in defensive efficiency. And they really capitalize on teams' mistakes. They actually play at a slower pace than a lot of people think, just because you are used to seeing them, in transition and stuff. But that's really just a testament to actually them taking advantage of the other team's mistakes. And Cornell has been prone to make some, mistakes, some turnovers at points. So I think they're going to capitalize on those mistakes. And I think that they're going to ultimately cover this 1.5 spread and win by 2 goals and find themselves facing another Big Ten team in the championship on Monday.
Yeah, I think that's part of the thing that's going under the radar, too, is if you look at Rutgers' path, there was all this talk about the big bad Ivy this year. You know what I mean? All the representation that the Ivy had in this tournament. And all Rutgers has done is mow down. They can kind of feel like, hey, maybe we're the giant killers. You roll Harvard in the first round. You're able to really have a tight grind out game. Penn showed me a lot. I mean, that's a damn tough team for sure. A shame that we won't get to see them play another game. But now to be the 3rd straight Ivy team that Rutgers is playing, and I think we would be kidding ourselves that there wasn't at least some talk in that locker room about like, oh, I thought it was the Ivy's year. You know what I mean? Like I feel like there's that little just added spark there, and the fact that it likely sets up that either they'll be playing an Ivy in the finals, or the more likely thing is going to happen, they'll be facing off against Maryland, a team that whooped their ass twice this year. That's even more motivation to try and get into that game, maybe try and take some bad taste out of your mouth in that one. So I think the game plays towards Rutgers. I think they're a favorite for the reason. I think the line's a little bit short too. And the more that I dove into this game is what made me arrive at my best bet. And I know it's championship weekend. It's a holiday weekend. Who the hell wants to sweat out an under? The numbers are telling me going under this low 24.5 point total. Part of it is just due to the team that they're facing. This Cornell veteran defense unit has been strong all year, only allowing 11.4 goals per game, but they've ratcheted that up in the playoffs. And you can say, yeah, maybe the offenses they faced weren't all that great, but they've only allowed 16 total goals all tournament long, 8 in the first game to OSU, 8 to Delaware. I think that, there's a lot to be said of the fact that they have some graduate students on there. They have one lone sophomore who's playing like an upperclassman. There's a lot of veteran presence on that defense, and not a bad netminder either. On the other sideline, you're facing off against Rutgers, a team that constantly, when people think about, the NASCAR offense, and we've heard that to death, Hutton just kind of alluded to it. They actually play not that crazy of a pace. The reason why it seems like they're possessing the ball all the time is because they lead the nation in clearing percentage. They have only failed on less than 9% of their clears all year long. And that, to me, says not many unsettled opportunities going the way of Big Red. And if they do go the way of Big Red, guess what? You're going to be staring down Kirst in between the pipes, who has averaged in his 4 games in NCAA playoff tournament history 8.7 goals allowed, 17 saves per game. This guy ratchets it up. I expect him to do the same. And the kicker, guys, like I mentioned, there is that rain in the forecast. So if there are some of those fast breaks, maybe we see some more turnovers going down. Maybe we see some mucky offensive possessions. I'm not really relying on that for my handicap. It just helps benefit the fact that I think this game sets up to an under 24.5. I think you're looking at more maybe like an 11-10 final or to help out Hutton, maybe a 12-10 final. But I think that this is playing to an under. I'm back in the under 24.5, Cornell and Rutgers, and -110 on DraftKings. Any final thoughts, guys, before we start swinging it around, open it up for some listeners?
Yeah, I am going to have to co-sign that based on the numbers, too. I think we're in for an under. The pace of play both these teams play at are really, really low in the standings. Cornell plays at the 58th slowest pace. Rutgers, they do capitalize on transition, but once they settle into their offense, they're slow to go, attack the cage. And pair that with the fact that Rutgers is 39th in offensive efficiency and Cornell's 25th in offensive efficiency. I think that sets up very nicely for an under. Slow pace for both these teams, mediocre offensive efficiency. I'm going to have to co-sign, and I think I'm going to go with that under as well.
That we put on our beep boop bop hats right there, dropping some numbers for you, backing up the plays. That's our thoughts on the NCAA slate. You have any best bets you want to drop in, just hit that little speaker in your bottom left-hand corner, and we'll get you in here. Would love to hear from you, get some of your thoughts. We'll move right into the NLL here. I was going to, throw in a little bit on just future pricing, but what's the point? I mean, if you are going to back a future, the only one I think worth betting is Princeton at this point because they're plus 1,400, and it's only the thought process behind it. I tweeted it out a little bit earlier this week. If they are the giant killer, if they are the one who beats Maryland, they're going to be favored in the national championship game. I would be, even if Rutgers is in the game, I don't see how, the team who knocks off Maryland isn't favored. So, you maybe sprinkle a little bit on Princeton. I'm not going to do it. I just like trying to look at those future markets and see an opportunity that we might have. So if you wanted to take some money out of your pocket, I think that would be the way to attack it. Alternatively, my Venmo at Dan Newbert, just Venmo me, send me that. Whatever you're going to put on it, and I'll book it for you. So I'm just kidding, SEC. Don't come knocking at my door and saying that I'm booking action live on Twitter. But seriously, if you want to Venmo me. All right, so NLL action this weekend. We got one game, boys. We got the Seals and the Mammoth. Seals 1.5-point favorites, total 21.5, slightly juiced to the over. Sheer pass for our guy, Brian. If I was betting this game, I might lean towards the Seals. On the money line, though, you would have to lay 15 to get back 10. So I don't know if there's as much value there because I think the Mammoth could pull the upset. I'm looking forward to watching this. I just don't know, Hutton, if there's anything, I would put any money on. Total 21.5 for what it's worth.
Yeah, this is rock solid right now. It's tough for me to kind of predict. Both games have kind of been, just any team could win. I mean, we almost saw the Seals win in regulation. The Mammoth came back and tied with a minute left in that game. Still lost in overtime. But if I had to have a lean, I'd lean Mammoth money line. I think there's some value there. But it's not enough for me to pull the trigger at plus 120. I think they have a chance at winning this game. And so that would probably be the play if I had to pick any play. The total, it's too tight for me. We've seen both these goalies can really, pitch really tough games. And so that's why I don't know if I would touch that total where it's at. It's not as clear like, last week when we had Toronto and Buffalo, me and Brian, I pat ourselves on the back, called that perfectly that we thought Rose and Vince would have a better game, and they sure did. But my only play really actually this weekend came last weekend. Other than the under, I actually took the Bandits minus 105 to win the championship because I knew that their odds would decrease had they, advanced. I was banking on them winning rather than playing them on the money line against Toronto. I figured I'd get my future in now. So not too much value there, but that's what I got. They're still minus 160. I think there's a little bit of value there because they're going to be heavily favored going into this next series. But it's a little bit trickier right now being minus 160 just because you don't want to lay too much on them to win the championship. But the nice thing about that is you could get them minus 160 now to win the championship. They come out, they lose that first game to whoever they play. I still think they're going to be favored in that second game, even if they lose. So you still have a chance to maybe, change your course of action a little bit or double down on it a little bit. So, that's kind of the game you could play right now if I would. But right now, I think my only lean would be Mammoth on the money line. But sit back, relax, enjoy this one because I think it's going to be a great finish between both these teams, and I think we're in for a good championship.
A pass across the board as we head on in to the NLL Cup. Will it be Seals? Will it be Mammoth? We'll also break down who could be potentially missing out on the PLL, depending on who wins that. Make sure you're tuned in. Follow us at Bet On Lacrosse. And that's our thoughts on the lacrosse slate this weekend. By the time we talk to you next week, it's going to be PLL time. I couldn't be more excited about it. Continue checking us out here on Bet On Lacrosse. Want to remind you, check out my new show coming over and back. It'll be found on the PLL Bets account. First guest is going to be Evan Malloy from the Postgame Podcast. So should be a fun one indeed. So boys, that's it. If anybody has any thoughts, you can hit that request button. But another fun episode with you guys. What do you got, Hutton?
We got Brad also joining.
Let's go.
Here we go.
Brad, look at the brain on Brad. What's up, my man?
How's it going, guys? Great episode. I think the only thing I'm completely on board with not playing this NLL game coming up this weekend. But if you look at BetMGM, they actually have, it looks like their futures prices are backwards because the Seals are plus 450 to win the cup. Mammoth is plus 300, I believe. And obviously Seals are favored by a bit in that game. So if you're looking to make a play, you don't really want to get in on that game individually. That'll give you a little bit of extra value heading into the NLL Cup if they do hold serve at home and make it to the finals.
That's a great find right there. That nice plus 450 potential price that you could get there. Why bet the one game? And then you're playing with a little bit of house money heading in there. And then maybe Hutton, the Bandits drop the first game against the Seals, and then you see an opportunity where that series price, kind of what you did, if anybody has been betting this Miami Heat and Boston Celtics series, you had great opportunity to get both of those teams plus prices, something that we talked about when we were on Beat the Line with our guy Adam Rosenberg the other night about, trying to use some of these handicapping tools that we use in other sports, that plus 450. Do you think that's a mispriced, or do you think that's the bookmakers saying, Colorado might be the one who gets home in this one? Like, I'm not sure what we're seeing there.
So I think it could be that way. Ideally, I think you could like the Mammoth more than the Seals. Ultimately, I think it's probably a misprice by BetMGM, just because we've seen them misprice things in the past.
Yes, we have.
I think that's kind of a misprice there, and a great find by Brad. And I don't hate that play at all if you do like one of those teams, because, like you said, if the Bandits do go down by one game, this team's just one game away from winning a championship. So gives you a little bit of wiggle room for sure to play. I just can't get there just yet. But I will say, Dane Doby and Brody Merrill, man, you can't bet against them. So it's tough for me to lean Mammoth, and that's partially why I just can't officially get to the counter on this game, because there's a lot at stake for both teams, and they're riding that high, from the Dane Doby behind the back goal in overtime. So I'm just looking forward to kicking up my feet and watching this matchup and seeing who the Bandits get to face in the championship.
Yeah, so Brad, great find on that little misprice there. That's what we do here with Bet on Lacrosse. You see something, say something. So do you have any action that you're going to be placing this week, either NCAA, or are you just hitting one of those futures? Don't you have a ticket on Maryland, Brad, or am I mistaken? What are you attacking this weekend with?
I am extremely well positioned in futures across both leagues, actually. I've got Maryland plus 550 that was still hanging on the board at MGM after they beat Virginia earlier in the season. So a little bit of money on that one. And then when it comes to NLL, CoolBet had the Bandits plus 900 at the start of the season. So I got that kicking around. So be nice if I could have some big plus money on both sides heading into the NLL Cup. And then I'm just riding with Maryland, because why the hell not at this point?
Yeah, why when you have a 550 ticket, forget playing minus 1150, Brad. You just keep riding that to the bank, and that's going to be one hell of a screenshot if that one ends up getting home for you. What a ticket, Hutton.
Oh, man, we should have been asking you for advice at the start of this season.
Now we know.
Yeah.
Actually, Canadian content here, just to drop it in, but Ontario just had DK open up in Ontario, north of the border here. So I finally got access to NCAA futures prices. That one that I had on Maryland is one of the situations you were talking about, Dan, where shipped a friend down in the States a little bit of money to place a ticket for me. So But we finally have NCAA prices with DraftKings up here, and Cool Bet again offering some value on the PLL. They actually have the Water Dogs and the Redwoods plus 800 for the PLL championship. So they've been pretty sharp on their lines for most of the season, but I feel like those ones are a bit off.
I'll tell you what, B-Rad, is this PLL future market. Our whiz Brian Andrews actually worked up a way, and it would take like hundreds of dollars to be able to do it. And it would basically just be able to say, like, you beat a market. He worked up a way that you could place a future on every team and guarantee yourself money in the PLL season. Shopping around on lines with this new availability, and I'm so pumped you guys are going to have it up north as well, because it means we're going to get to have you continuing on here with the Bet on Lacrosse podcast and getting to hear from you as we continue. It's going to be fun, but I'm with you, man. The future prices right now are maybe one of your best bets in lacrosse, because also one of the things that sets us up very nicely is the fewer teams, right? Like you're already playing in a field that is skewed towards the better, because it's a 1 in 8 chance of what you could potentially, be getting home here. So I just think, there's some major value in these futures, and I'm not typically a future bettor, but I think that might be a way that I'm going to attack it kind of moving forward here. JB, did you place any futures here? We'll get our last thoughts on this, the future markets as a whole. Have you hit anything future wise? I think we mentioned it when we were doing our PLL preview, but maybe for some of the listeners who didn't hear that part, have you dropped any futures? Because for my edition of Over and Back, I have to pick a team that's going to be my futures, and I'm like leaning Redwoods right now. What are you thinking, man?
I'm on the Dogs, man. I'm on the Water Dogs. And I just think they really turned the corner this year. I think they've got a really good team, like, through and through. And we've seen them, like, get off to a good start and tail off and vice versa. I think they just kind of stick through and have a really good season the entire year, which I'm really looking forward to. I think they really take the next step and kind of be one of those keepsake teams like the Whip Snakes. But the future market has been tough for me this year with lacrosse. I'm embarrassed to say this, but I had 2 futures on Duke and Notre Dame heading into the season, and I really thought I was onto something, and they didn't even make the tournament. So there's that.
I know that feeling. We'll give Hutton the last word on this, but Brad, you mentioned those future prices. Well, if my guy likes the Water Dogs, he might have to slide in the DMs and work out some cash across the border there, because that plus 800 is juicy. If you had to pick one team, Brad, for the PLL future for you to sprinkle on, who would it be price wise, or who would it just be you think is going to get home with it?
Yeah, for me, it's Water Dogs plus 800 as well. I think that's, you might have a little Chaos Bandits hangover from an NLL championship, and you might have a pissed off Dylan Ward in between the pipes for the Water Dogs all season. So those things combined with all of the two-way guys they've added. I mean, everyone's talking about, Chris Gray, Logan Wisnauskas as Rookie of the Year. Reed Bowering, sleeper pick for Rookie of the Year in the PLL. Even though he wasn't drafted this year, this will be his rookie season, and that dude is a monster.
He's like a Zach Courier 2.0. I love that suggestion there. And the sneaky signing by them to get him this offseason. Matt Hossack as well, Graham Hossack's brother, will probably play short stick defensive midi, I assume. I like the Water Dogs a lot as well, and for all those reasons. Another team that was right there with them, I'd say Atlas is a team that, I don't know if there's a ton of value right now on them. I feel like you could wait a little bit just because the season's so up and down. But if there's a team that I really think could get that first round bye and have a chance to go all the way, Atlas right now is kind of my pick. I haven't bet them yet, but I'm planning on just waiting for that right opportunity. I don't want to wait too long, though. I tried that with Maryland and never ended up getting in on it before it was too late. So who knows? I got to make sure that I jump on it, sooner rather than later this time around.
Well, and for what it's worth, you shop around. BetMGM posting right now on Atlas plus 550. So that's the best price that I'm seeing right now on Atlas. And then you have the same ticket that B-Rad has on Maryland. And then when you get home, you get to brag to everybody and talk about your closing line value. And for me, again, I did it last year. I think I'll probably end up going back to the well and getting the future down on Redwoods. Like they've just been always a bridesmaid, never the bride so many times that it's like they need to break through, right? And I just think they have a lot of good pieces in place. I think that their draft was also sneaky good. Their offseason was sneaky good. So I think I'm going to go back to the well, put another one on the Redwoods there. So huge thanks to Brad hopping in here at the end. Really love that futures talk to kind of close us down here. Want to remind you, our plays for this week, we're all passing in the NLL, but NCAA action, we got a 3-pack for you. I'm on under Rutgers Cornell, going under the 24.5. It's an under show here, even though we usually go over on the time. Justin going under Maryland versus Princeton, that number 27.5, and Hutton is laying it with the Scarlet Knights, -1.5. Rutgers, his best bet. Huge thanks to all you joining in. Thanks for tuning in. If you like what we're doing, just share it. Drop a like. Make sure you follow us, Bet On Lacrosse. Follow all of our individual handles as well, because for my guys, front office sports business writer Justin Byers, check out his articles. And my other guy, Hutton Jackson, check out his work with Action Network. Maybe some fun stuff coming soon as well. Lacrosse fans, also check out his weekly podcast, Pro Lacrosse Talk. I'm Dan Alexander with Wager Talk and with Gambling.com. Make sure you check out the new show, Over and Back. It'll be dropped on the @PLL Bets account. Evan Malloy of the Postgame Podcast joining me for the first episode. So huge thanks to everybody tuning in. Have a terrific Memorial Day weekend. And hopefully, when we're talking to you next week, we got some more money in our pockets. Good luck, everybody.